My name is Dana Thorne, and I'm the archivist at the Lambton County Archives in Wyoming. I'm working as a reporter with our local newspaper to provide a special investigation into a historical conundrum. Today is January 16, 1962, the 100th anniversary of Canada's first oil gusher, a remarkable event that instigated an oil boom in Oil Springs. My special investigation is called Which History is True? The Shaw-Gusher Question. So who decides what gets written in the history books? How do we ever know what really happened in the past? And what if historians disagree about the truth behind our stories? A debate is stirring in Lambton County about one of the foundational stories in local oil history, the identity of the man who drilled Canada's first oil gusher. This was a monumental achievement that resulted in oil gushing into the air at a rate of at least 2,000 barrels per day. Historians have credited a man named Hugh Nixon Shaw, but other scholarship suggests that it was actually a man named Jianchao. Newspaper articles from the mid-1800s refer to Hugh Nixon Shaw as a successful businessman who patented a still and opened a refinery in Oil Springs. There's no doubt that Hugh was active in this area. However, the primary sources available don't support Hugh as the oil gusher pioneer. 1860s newspapers don't connect Hugh specifically with the oil gusher discovery. They all mention Jianchao or Shaw only. Also telling is the fact that Hugh's own Journal of Business Expenditures from 1861 to 63 doesn't refer to the gusher and doesn't reflect a significant increase in earnings. Now on to poor Jianchao. He was a significantly less successful businessman. The Toronto Globe described on February 2, 1862, how last January found him a ruined, hopeless man, leered at by his neighbors, his pockets empty, his clothes in tatters. But John's luck would change. We read in the Hamilton Times, published January 20th, 1862, Mr. John Shaw from Kingston, Canada West, tapped a vein of oil in his well. The present enormous flow of oil cannot be estimated at less than 2,000 barrels per day. John was identified by name as the man who struck the gusher in 8 separate articles published in the Hamilton Times, Toronto Globe, and Sarnia Observer. Additionally, secondary sources published between 1900 and 1940 all exclusively credit John. So if all the primary sources refer to John Shaw as the man who tapped the gusher, how did history come to celebrate Hugh Nixon Shaw? Influential scholar Robert Harkness solidified Hugh as the man who discovered Canada's first oil gusher in his 1940 publication, Makers of Oil History. Harkness refers to a series of newspaper articles that appeared in the Toronto Globe in 1861 and discusses how these articles consistently describe Hugh Nixon Shaw. This is true, but isn't really relevant. Those articles were written before the 1862 discovery. Harkness noted how John Shaw could live in Petrolia enjoying the glory of his gallant pioneer namesake Hugh Nixon Shaw, along with men who knew this to be incorrect, his extraordinary. Despite Harkness's questionable scholarship, other historians began to follow his lead. When Oil Springs celebrated its 100th anniversary in 1958, a flurry of articles and activities credited Hugh with the discovery. William G. Shaw, Hugh's grandson, paid homage to his grandfather by visiting Oil Springs. He admitted to the Sarnia Observer, "I was quite surprised to find that there were write-ups about the Shaw well in the newspapers." Is it telling that Hugh's discovery was not part of the Shaw family lore? Currently, the historical narrative accepted by both Lambton residents and historians is that Hugh Nixon Shaw was a penniless, down-on-his-luck vagabond who made an incredible discovery. It appears that the stories of Hugh Nixon Shaw and John Shaw have been melded together under a single name. Recently, historians have been revisiting this issue and starting to ask questions. Who really discovered that oil gusher, and how do we decide which historian's interpretation of the primary sources is correct? How do we rewrite history after recognizing questionable scholarship? These issues continue to challenge traditional perspectives on our local history. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my special investigation today. If you would like any additional information or if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.